Yo, they say when it rains, it pours. And man, if you're a Commanders fan, we are trapped in like a monsoon. It is raining cats and dogs in our realm. Banged up is an understatement for what we're dealing with right now. Already without Terry McLaurin, and the injuries just continue to pile up. In this episode, though, I'm going to talk about all of the individuals who are not available for this week's game versus the Cowboys. I'm conversely going to talk about every single person who is, and why you as a Commanders fan have no cares, or at least you shouldn't. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. And man, could be humdrum, could be a really depressing episode, but I refuse. I refuse, bro. Man, on the precipice, night before, where we take on the Dallas Cowboys, one of our, if not our biggest rival in the entire NFL, obviously our biggest rival in the NFC East. Man, this matchup, this battle, this tug of war, this arm wrestling match goes back decades. But man, we are dealing with some injuries. But guess what? It's week 7 of the NFL. Every team at this point is dealing with injuries. Some more significant than others, but of course those that we are dealing with are incredibly significant. I'm going to talk about those in this episode, and I'm going to share with you a few articles that report on the injury report, namely some from commanders.com. And then I'm going to, also talk to you about, man, why we shouldn't be worried. As I said in the intro, man, we're good. We're good to go. But before we dive deep into this content, do me a huge favor. Like the video. Liking the video helps us cruise along Algorithm Avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who might be interested in this kind of content. Also, subscribe to the channel. Doing that and click the notification bell helps you to stay notified as to when my newest episodes are uploaded. Commanders fans across the globe. Without further ado, I am entitling today's episode, Commanders versus Cowboys. Terrible news. Terrible, terrible news. So, as though we weren't already, suffering through it with Terry McLaurin being out, which this will now be his fourth consecutive game, being out with his quad injury, a soft tissue injury. Much like I tried to, I'll say, adamantly speaking out against, coming into the season with Terry holding out of training camp and then holding in. I'm like, bro, the soft tissue injury danger is it's looming, and I knew that there was a possibility, obviously, that this would happen, because it's just not likely that you can go half mass and then go full speed through training camp, preseason, etc. So when you're sitting out and you're not even able to go through the motions, then like you're kind of up against the 8 ball even more. So unfortunately, Terry McLaurin, early in the week was ruled out. He practiced on Wednesday, as we'll get into here in this information. But then, he wouldn't practice as the week went on. So I have so much information that I want to cover. I don't want to belabor, the points too much before we can just dive directly into them. And so I want to talk to you about the game plan for this episode. We're going to talk about four quarters of a game plan. First quarter, we're going to address the injury report itself. In the second quarter, we'll talk about keys to victory. In the third quarter, I'll give a score prediction, and then I'll give a final word for the fourth quarter of the episode, and we'll get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? And get us some sleep, man, so that we can scream our faces off at the television or at the game if you guys are, going to be attending in Arlington, Texas tomorrow. Arlington, Texas. But again, without further ado, man, I'm jumping right into the first quarter. Let's talk about this injury report. This first from commanders.com. Game status, Terry McLaurin ruled out versus Cowboys. This article penned by Zach Shelby from commanders.com. We'll dive directly into it. Let's go. The Washington Commanders have ruled out wide receiver Terry McLaurin for week number 7, or for their week 7 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. It'll be the fourth consecutive game McLaurin has missed this season. There was optimism that McLaurin, who's been dealing with a quad injury, could make his return this week when he practiced in a limited capacity on Wednesday. However, he did not participate on Thursday, and he was seen on the field without a helmet on Friday. Although McLaurin is closer to making a return, the injury has not improved enough yet. It's frustrating for him because he's working at it hard, head coach Dan Quinn said after Friday's practice. It's just not ready yet. And that sometimes happens when you have a soft tissue injury and you're waiting it to get there. But you have to push it at the top speeds, Coach Quinn adds. The Commanders' options at receiver have been limited for the better part of a month, with McLaurin sidelined and Noah Brown now on injured reserve. The team has turned to second-year pro Luke McCaffrey and rookie Jalen Lane for more production. McCaffrey has 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games, while Lane had a 37-yard catch on Monday against the Chicago Bears. On the practice squad, the Commanders have veteran Robbie Chosen, as well as undrafted free agents Ja'Cory Brooks and Jacoby Jones as candidates to be elevated to the game day roster. The Commanders also signed former first-round pick Treylon Burks to their practice squad on Friday. Quinn said the team is excited to have Burks and has a plan in place for him, although he will need to get up to speed on the offensive system before being a meaningful contributor. Deebo Samuel has been the Commanders' go-to option on offense with McLaurin and Brown out, although his status for Sunday's game is questionable, no longer questionable. He did not practice Wednesday or Thursday with a heel injury, but Quinn said he did get some reps on Friday. When asked after practice whether he would play, Samuel said, "We'll just have to see. There's also a chance the Commanders will get both guard Sam Cosmi with his knee and cornerback Jonathan Jones with his hamstring," bring back Johnny Jones, from the injured reserve list this weekend. Quinn said both players had a good week of practice, but did not reveal whether they would be put on the active roster. Cosmi is nearing the end of his 21-day practice window, while Jones was designated for return to practice this week. Both players are listed as questionable. Defensive end Dorrance Armstrong, who suffered a hamstring injury against the Bears, and tight end Zach Ertz shoulder calf are listed as questionable. The remaining players on the list, including Jaden Daniels, Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Ali Cajo, will be available. So again, that article, man, from commanders.com. A couple things in this article that I just kind of wanted to highlight. First and foremost for me, even when I listened to some of the pressers through the week, and I just was kind of being patient, to do an episode where I was talking cash shit about what we were going to do against the Cowboys. I wanted to see kind of where we were as a team, what that roster was going to be looking like, the game day roster, what the potential for the game day roster was going to be like. And, as a realist, I was like, man, Terry practiced on Wednesday. And then, Deebo sits out of practice. Terry practiced on Wednesday, sits out Thursday, Friday. I was like, man, those guys aren't playing. It just doesn't make sense, that they wouldn't still be in mode come Thursday, come Friday. For Deebo, obviously, with a heel injury, man, you're talking about, obviously, they're both dealing with, injuries to the lower extremities. But you're talking about, again, as Coach Quinn said, having to be able to push that thing at full speed in practice to know that you could do so in the game. And then you need to see how the body reacts, how the body responds, how the extremity responds. You know what I mean? The injury itself. And so I was like, it's probably not likely that they're going to play. I just wasn't very hopeful. And then today, of course, being on pins and needles for a couple days, man, we had those questions answered. So I wasn't expecting Terry to play one way or the other because really it doesn't make sense, when we have a Monday night game against the Kansas City Chiefs next week. So it makes more sense to bring him back then, right? And, Debo, now, as the week wore on, it was just like, kind of the same thing. It's like, obviously, when you're dealing with injuries of any kind, you want to try to at least give the guys some time to get healthy, because having them at full mass makes more sense than just kind of having them out there at half mass, further aggravating the injury that you're not going to have an enormous amount of time to recover from as the season goes on, and the repeated wear and tear on top of that injury occur. And so we are where we are. But the good news is, there's hope. There's hope. And I say that there's hope, man. That's why I wanted to talk about, like, this could be a gloom and doom type situation where we're like, oh man, like, this sucks. That now our top two weapons, because bringing in Debo was being brought in obviously to do what Debo does. He was brought in to do Debo things, and he's been doing that this year. But in lieu of Terry McLaurin playing, we had Debo still, shining and giving us what we expected of him. So Debo, instead of being the number 2 option, became the number 1 option and our number 1 threat and major threat on offense. Not having either of them, man, it's on paper, this looks bad. In reality, on the field, the fear, perception-wise and perspective-wise, is like, man, you without your top 2. Any team in the National Football League is at a severe disadvantage, missing their top 2 options at wideout. But the thing that gives me the most hope, and the thing that I'll transfer to you, if you take nothing else from this video, you could turn it off after this if you fucking like. I mean, you'd be crazy too, but you could turn it off after this if you'd like. I'm going to tell you this. This is the perfect setup, especially against the Cowboys. This is the perfect setup for a star to be born. Man, stars emerge because of opportunity. Stars are born out of opportunity, space, and opportunity. And this is one of those games where I can see the narrative brewing already. Man, had it not been for Terry McLaurin and Debo not playing, we would have never got a chance to really see a full effort from a Jalen Lane. We wouldn't have got a chance to see potentially Ja'Cory Brooks or Jacoby Jones elevated, into more of a role where they're being actually leaned upon to produce. And so, man, this is one of those situations where we could look back a few years from now and later as the season goes on, when you really need these other guys to be confident in themselves. You need Jaden to be confident in them, when you need to know what they can do in big time situations, and also when you need them to understand that they can deliver in big time situations. And so I'm expecting something magical to occur with the guys that we have. And why? Do we need magic for it? No, I'm just saying the narrative itself is going to be that magic. If you watch enough football, you watch enough sports, then it's next man up. These guys are also professional football players. You know what I'm saying? They get paid professional bucks to do a professional thing. And so I'm expecting them to rise to the occasion, and I'm expecting them to shine. Somebody is going to have a breakout game, no different than Luke McCaffrey has been all season long. And so we'll talk about, or I wanted to talk about, and just mention that. But also, obviously, as they said, signing Treylon Burks, on Friday. I want to go back to the quote from Dan Quinn where he said, that they have a plan in place. However, he'll need to get up to speed in the offensive system before being a, quote, meaningful contributor. And so, yeah, every system is different, you know, but man, certain plays are just certain plays, you know, a slant's a slant, you know what I'm saying? An out route's an out route. And so you could just kind of get him up to speed on a few plays and then have him rely on his actual skill and ability, and you know what I mean? Like in route running and et cetera, man. So, you know, he could still play a key and critical role clearly in this week's game. And so I just wanted to get to that. But I want to move on to another article that I have here from SI.com. And it just kind of went more into detail. This Sports Illustrated article about who exactly is hurt and what's going on with them. So I just kind of wanted to delve into that really quick. So just a really quick blurb of an article, as a matter of fact. Commanders' final injury report for Dallas has devastating news. 2 star receivers are out, and a handful of other starters are questionable. See the full daunting injury list for the Washington Commanders before their rivalry game. This was an article penned by Darius Hayes. And we're going to dive into it. Again, a Sports Illustrated.com article. The Washington Commanders are going into their Week 7 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys with several key names on the injury report. This week was supposed to be a step in the right direction for several players, but it's been the complete opposite. Here's a look at everyone who is either out or questionable headed into the divisional showdown in Dallas. Wide receiver Terry McLaurin, number 1. McLaurin is officially out for Sunday's game as he continues to deal with a quad injury. What was expected to be a bounce-back week for the veteran receiver has instead become his 4th missed game of the season. Head coach Dan Quinn confirmed on Friday that McLaurin wouldn't be available after he missed both Thursday and Friday's practices. Without McLaurin, the Commanders will lean heavily on Debo, so we thought, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane to carry the passing game. No leaning on Debo. Unfortunately, wide receiver Noah Brown, the Commanders' receiver depth took another hit when Noah Brown was placed on injured reserve earlier this week. Brown has been battling growing knee injuries, and will now miss at least the next 4 games. He'll be eligible to return in Week 11. Washington faces the Dolphins in Madrid, Spain. Defensive end Dorance Armstrong, man. Dorance Armstrong has been playing like an animal this season. Dorance Armstrong is listed as questionable with a hamstring injury, another soft tissue injury. The Commanders' defensive front has already been hit hard by injuries this season, so Armstrong's availability will be crucial against a strong Cowboys offensive line. So hopefully Dorance Armstrong can go, man. But again, this is a hamstring soft tissue injury. And so, you know, we're talking about, you know, him being the defensive end, you know, all the push that he needs to get off that leg. And it's repeated, constant, over and over and over again. You know, you really want him to be at least close to 100%, man, or, you know, not 100%, you know, with that injury, because you could just re-aggravate it and make it worse. Tight end Zach Ertz. Veteran tight end Zach Ertz is questionable with a shoulder injury. If he's unable to go, Ben Sinnott could see more action in the passing game alongside Colson Yankoff. I'm a fan of Ben Sinnott, so I'm happy about that. Colson Yankoff as well. You know what I mean? Like, we have depth, man. Let's use them. And like I said, somebody from this offensive side of the ball, whether it's when, you know, one of these wide receivers or tight ends, is certainly going to be in line to have a remarkable game and play a critical role in this victory versus the Cowboys on Sunday. Cornerback Jonathan Jones. Cornerback Jonathan Jones is questionable with a hamstring injury that has limited his participation this week. The Commanders' secondary has struggled, and losing Jones will be a tough blow against the Dallas offense that's shown the ability to stretch the field. I believe they get CeeDee Lamb back this week as well. Secondary is already, like they said, man, been struggling this season. You know what I mean? So hopefully, man, Johnny Jones can get himself, you know what I mean, ready to play, or he is ready to play, not get himself. Hopefully that hamstring will allow him to. Defensive end Drake Jackson, recently signed defensive end. Drake Jackson has been placed on injured reserve with a knee injury before even making his debut. Washington's defensive end depth continues to be tested following earlier injuries to Deatrich Wise Jr. and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Man, these injuries. Offensive lineman Sam Cosmi, starting guard Sam Cosmi is questionable with a knee injury after being limited in practice this week. The Commanders can't afford more attrition along the offensive line as they try to protect Mariota against Dallas's aggressive pass rush. Try to protect Mariota. Well, that's definitely got to be a typo, unless SportsIllustrated.com is already leaking to us that Jaden somehow, you know what I mean, like going to follow some NFL script and be unavailable when the game starts or early in the game. God forbid. Let me knock on some wood over here. I didn't read this article clearly before this episode, but man, fuck that shit. What is Seth talking about, or whatever this cat's name is who authored this article? Wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is also listed as questionable with a heel injury, but is trending toward playing according to team insiders. Samuel wasn't much of a presence last week, but his presence will be vital with both McLaurin and Brown sideline. And so what I found interesting about this article is it's almost like they changed the title page to say that two-star wide receivers would be out, but they're still saying that Deebo was questionable. And so, you know, obviously the first article that I pulled was that from commanders.com, which had the, the injury report rather in it. And I was like, yeah, man, let's kind of see how things go. Still haven't heard anything yet, but I'm not very hopeful. Not hearing anything if it's a game time decision, probably leans more on the side of Deebo not playing. And then today the news broke that Deebo would not be playing. Kickoff between the Commanders and Cowboys is set for Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Washington will need its depth players to step up in a big way if it hopes to steal a much-needed divisional win in Dallas. That I can agree with. Finally, a article from CBSSports.com, authored by Will Backus, that is titled Deebo Samuel Injury, Commanders wide receiver out for week 7, Washington missing top 2 receivers against rival Cowboys. And I decided to share all of these articles because, some kind of give a little something that the other one didn't give. Like one gives me an opportunity to, talk about the rookie wide receivers who, like have to step in and have the potential to be elevated to, a game roster. And, then one helps me to kind of detail the folks who are out and then what they're dealing with. And then, this CBS article. Let's get a gander. The Washington Commanders downgraded wide receiver Deebo Samuel to out on the latest injury report ahead of its Week 7 game against the Dallas Cowboys. Samuel did not practice during the week while nursing a lingering heel injury. This latest turn means that Washington is without its top 2 receivers against the Cowboys as star wideout Terry McLaurin will miss his 4th consecutive game with a quad injury. McLaurin returned to practice Wednesday as limited participant, but he returned to the sideline on Thursday. Samuel did play in Washington's Monday night loss to the Chicago Bears, though he was limited to just 4 catches for 15 yards. Samuel, who joined the Commanders in March when he was traded from the San Francisco 49ers, has flourished in lieu of McLaurin's absence. He leads the Commanders with 34 catches, tied for 10th in the NFL, for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. Samuel broke the 70-yard receiving mark in 3 games already after reaching that benchmark just 4 times last season. Without McLaurin and Samuel, Washington's top wide receivers Sunday will likely be Luke McCaffrey and Chris Moore. Both McCaffrey and Moore scored touchdowns against Chicago. Chris Moore, I'll say, I don't dislike Chris Moore. I definitely want to see a more confident, and we need to see a more confident Chris Moore. I feel like in a lot of instances, not that he was nervous, not that he wasn't nervous. Just saw a couple catches that I felt like should have been catches, so maybe that's a focus thing, that's a discipline thing. You know what I mean? But whatever it is, I need to see a Chris Moore who was on his shit, coming up in this game here. There's also a chance that the Commanders elevate former first-round pick Treylon Burks from their practice squad. Burks, now healthy from a broken collarbone, signed with Washington on October the 16th after spending a month as a free agent. And so, again, yeah, man, that's that article. It gives me a chance to, not only be optimistic about, the potential for Treylon Burks, to step in and give us something. And, some much-needed help as it stands. and also, Chris Moore, to talk a little bit more about Chris Moore and, what I've seen or haven't seen from him this week. So last but not least, man, this article directly from NFL.com again, just really quick blurbs of some articles for you guys. But Samuel Hill downgraded to out versus Cowboys. And this was a article penned by Michael Baca. Jaden Daniels won't have either of his top targets on Sunday. Commanders wide receiver Deebo Samuel Hill was downgraded to out for Week 7's road matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported. Washington has since announced the news. Samuel will join McLaurin, quad out, on the sidelines as Daniels looks to prevent a losing streak following last week's defeat to the Bears. The veteran wide receiver managed to play in the loss despite coming into it questionable, producing only 4 receptions for 15 yards. Samuel missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday this week before returning in limited fashion on Friday, leading to his initial questionable designation on the injury report. The Commanders will allow Samuel, who leads the team in 34 receptions, receiving yards 315 and touchdowns 3 through 6 games, to heal that heel on Sunday ahead of a Monday night date with the Chiefs in Week 8. Daniels will now enter Sunday having to rely on Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, and rookie Jalen Lane at receiver. McCaffrey is the top producer of the thinned out bunch with 8 receptions for 179 yards and 3 touchdowns. 3 is a theme. Zach Ertz could see more targets if his shoulders allows. As a result of Deebo's absence, the veteran tight end has built a great rapport with Daniels since the quarterback's breakout rookie season. Ertz is second behind Samuel in receptions with 20 and receiving yards with 192, while also producing 3 scores. The Commanders would like to avoid a shootout with Cowboys' fruitful offense, however, which could be achieved with a bend but don't break defense and a consistent running attack powered by rookie Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Washington is scheduled to kick off against its biggest rival in Dallas Sunday, 4:25 p.m. And so, clearly, again, man, we have the depth at all these positions. I'm leaning on these guys. I don't feel like, oh man, woe is me, like woe is us, like, you know what I mean? I'm not anticipating some molly whopping out there or guys just dropping passes being incapable because, again, these guys are professional football players. And, the thing about, I'll say, what gives us confidence, the most confidence is fans, especially fans of one team in particular. When we're talking about a number 1 and number 2 option being out, what gave us confidence in Terry McLaurin is that he had an opportunity to prove himself to become the guy that we, have come to love over the years, right? Deebo Samuel, could not have become Deebo Samuel without being given an opportunity to become Deebo Samuel. And so, again, that underscores my point as to why I'm not like so humdrum or downtrodden in my spirit about what needs to take place tomorrow, what now we have no choice but to witness tomorrow with these other guys. They're getting an opportunity. And so, for these guys being very young, at some point, a young player needs to be given an opportunity to show that they are capable of handling the opportunity. If you have been watching football as long as I have, I'll say a name. Drew Bledsoe. If it wasn't for Drew Bledsoe suffering an injury, which gave Tom Brady an opportunity to emerge, then, some people, quite frankly, might not be, so adept at speaking of this guy because of what he did, being Tom Brady, ultimately being most people's GOAT, right? And so, I think Drew Brees got an opportunity also because of Drew Bledsoe. So, again, same situation where it's like, hey, man, a guy goes down, a guy steps up, and then a guy has an opportunity to emerge as being like that guy. He's ready. And so I don't question that as skilled as Jaden is, as long as his skill is matched by the skilled players at their position, and we'll be okay. Again, these guys are professional football players at this point, bro. They wouldn't be on the roster if they weren't capable. And so I'm expecting them to shine and to shine bright at that. And so I'm moving right along, man. Let's get into this. That is the keys to victory here. So I want to talk just a bit about keys to victory in my opinion. And it's not just my opinion. It is pejoratively the opinion of commanders.com. And I agree with Zach Shelby in this case, about these keys to victory for the Commanders. And so I will share and then I will add where I feel like, we need to give a little more. What I like the most about this article is that this article comes with a disclaimer, which is a little bit different for articles that I've shared. But the opinions expressed in this article do not reflect those of the team, nor this channel. No, obviously of this channel. The Washington Commanders are heading south to take on the Dallas Cowboys for their second division game. Here are 3 keys to them pulling out a victory. Number 1, start fast. Before I get into the start fast portion here of this article, I've already mentioned in previous episodes how the defense, man, seems to be so slow starting. All right? Such a slow start. It takes them a while, man. It's just like get into the mode, to get warmed up, and then they begin to show up on the defensive end. And I'm going to need them to be clicking tomorrow. I need the defense to come out raring and ready to go, especially with the potential of Dorrance Armstrong being out, which means next man up. I don't know if that's McGee or who it will be, sliding over. I have no idea. But whomever it is, man, who gets the nod, I just hope, man, when their number is called, man, they're ready. So again, to the article, start fast. Slow starts have perpetually plagued the Commanders all season. They've started games with either a punt or turnover in 5 of their 6 games, which has contributed to them getting into double-digit deficits in 4 matchups. They are 1-3 in those games. It's an issue the Commanders have tried to fix this week, with head coach Dan Quinn saying that he intended to emphasize the issue in practice. There are a few reasons why Commanders can't afford to be sluggish against Dallas, chief among them being the Cowboys' offense. Dak Prescott, who is second in the league in passing yards and touchdown, has the unit performing at a top-tier level. They've scored more points than almost any other team as their 29.7 point per game average per game ranks 3rd in the NFL. To that point, man, Dak gets a lot of shit, bro. But I'm a football fan, so I've been watching. Dak has been playing very well. Has this defense, their offense with its 29.7 points a game average, they have been looking very, very good. Their defense is trash. And that's also why I just feel like their secondary, man, I limit our secondary every week. Their secondary is fucking ass too. You know what I'm saying? So I think if anything else, we're going to be looking at a shootout. And again, as long as these weapons who are very adept at their position show up, then we'll be okay. And at some point, I like our defense to step up long before their defense. Their defense is ass, bro. They are trash. Back to the article. The saving grace for the Commanders is that Dallas's defense is on the opposite end of the spectrum with struggles in nearly every facet. They give up the 3rd most points in the 4th quarter and allow the most first downs on average. 5 of the Cowboys' 6 opponents have scored at least 3 points on their opening drive, with the one exception being the Chicago Bears. Granted, the Commanders have their own problems on offense with the lack of personnel because of injuries, but there should be opportunities for them to start the afternoon on the right foot if they can capitalize. With that, I agree. So that's the point, man. We got to start fast. We got to get off to a fast start. You know what I mean? So I don't want to see any conservative play calling. I don't want to see any, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to see it. I want to see us run the plays. It's the same playbook. These guys are all operating from the same playbook. Am I expecting Jalen Lane to be Debo or to be Terry McLaurin? No, I'm not. I'm just expecting them to be them. You understand? But I don't want to see any conservative plays or weirdness that, happening. Man, run the plays. Let's play some football. You know what I'm saying? So second of these keys, number 2 is to win on 3rd down. 3rd downs are important in every game, but it will be a battle of strengths and weaknesses on Sunday. The Commanders and their 11th ranked 3rd down defense will face off against the Cowboys' ninth-ranked third down offense. Conversely, the Commanders' 29th-ranked third down offense will try to find success against the Cowboys' last-ranked third down offense. And so, you know what I mean? We got like a bottom of the barrel third down ranked offense versus literally the bottom of the barrel ranked defense on third downs. And so again, man, I'm just expecting us to come out here and play football. Let's come out here and play football, man. That's all I want to see. In other words, something's got to give on either side of the ball, and I'm hoping that that give is positively working in our favor. Once again, the Commanders' offense seems like it will have a better matchup, although the unit has struggled to stay on the field for extended periods. Got to be able to extend these plays. Tight end Zach Ertz said there's not a singular issue to point to as the root of the problem. He wants to see all 11 players, including himself, working together to fix the problem. The pass protection has to be better. Receivers have to run better routes, and running backs need to find more lanes, according to Zach Ertz. On defense, the Commanders will face an offense that is getting reinforced with CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin at receiver, so they get 2 receivers back while we lose 2 receivers. Man, I'm going to need the secondary to really be crisp in this game. Like, oh my gosh, man, I just need the secondary to be on their shit. It's possible that cornerback Jonathan Jones will come back this week from injured reserve, but it's unclear how much that will improve the Commanders' bottom 10 ranked passing yards allowed per game. I ain't ranking about 10 passing yards allowed per game. It sucks. I'm telling you, the secondary is ass, man. We definitely need to do better. Moving on to key number 3, how we need to dominate the ground. We just definitely need to dominate the ground. So a team cannot just solely run the ball, and find success without the defense keying in that you're trying to run the ball and, starting to scheme against the run. We cannot be pass heavy and just expect to pass heavy without the defense scheming against the pass, understanding that we can't run. So we must come out and establish the run. I'm in agreement. And we also must have a balance, between offense or the plays called in the offense. Mix that shit up, Cliff. Let's go, bro. While the Commanders had another 100-yard rushing performance against the Bears, it would be difficult to say they dominated on the ground. They averaged just 4 yards per carry, with their longest run coming off of a scramble from Jaden Daniels rather than a design run. There should be another chance for the Commanders to establish a strong running game against the Cowboys, who ranked 29th in yards given up on the ground. It's a weakness teams have continued to exploit. The Cowboys give up 10.2 rushing first downs per game, by far the most in the league. The Carolina Panthers are the most recent team to take advantage. Man, we're going to run all up and down this Cowboys, like defense, like a zipper. We run up and down their chest, man. We ain't tripping. It's going down. There's no way that we're not going to run that football, so I am not worried about us not running the football. I just want us to make sure that we come out and establish that run early, and then we get it in often, if that makes sense. I'm sorry. That last wasn't a complete sentence. The Carolina Panthers are the most recent team to take advantage of that, as they rushed for 216 yards, the most given up by the Cowboys in a single game since week 8 of last season. The Commanders have a diverse rushing attack with multiple options on the ground. Ja'Cory Merritt is the most successful of the bunch, but Chris Rodriguez Jr., Jeremy McNichols, and Daniels also provide their services, of course. And last but not least, in talking about dominating the ground, there's also a chance for the Commanders to break off some explosive runs. The Cowboys have missed the 5th most tackles this season. So we're talking about 2 teams that just miss fucking tackles, man, which is annoying for us on our side. I need us missing tackles, and I need them to keep doing what they do. They've missed the 5th most tackles this season, while the Commanders have the 2nd most yards after contact. They've also broken a combined 17 tackles, which is tied for the 3rd most in the league. The best way for the Commanders' offense to help its defense is by keeping the Cowboys off the field for as long as possible. The ground game has been Washington's best strength all season, so hopefully they can keep that going over the weekend. Not hopefully, but we absolutely have to keep that going in tomorrow's game. And so That was the keys to victory, man. I'm gonna get into here, my scoring prediction for the game, and in so doing, again, to me, as that article, that last article pointed out, there's just like a lot of deficiencies that Dallas has been struggling with, especially stopping the ground game. Then they rank bottoms, and stopping the run, and also, what I mean, being able to stop passing plays and stopping teams on passing downs or in passing situations. And so, what I mean, like, I'm just looking for us again, man, to come out and be able to do whatever we want to do offensively. The key is going to be who can stop something. You know what I mean? Can we stop a nosebleed tomorrow? You know what I mean? Can we? Because that's going to be the determinant factor. If we can keep, especially that wide receiver core in check, you know what I mean, we'll be okay. We've been much better against the run this season, which I really, really love. But scoring prediction, in talking about that, again, man, I'm expecting a shootout. And so the shootout that I'm expecting is to still tip in our favor because of our sometimes inability to stop. You know what I mean? Like the big plays in the secondary, or even to stop like that stuff underneath when we seem to be in these soft shell coverage, or people are just blowing assignments in the zones. And so I expect them to be able to move the ball, but I expect it to result in a bunch of, field goals, or quite a few of them. So I'm expecting our team to pull out a close one. I like our offense still better than theirs, even though they get back Cavante Turpin and CD Lamb. But again, man, and Jaden, I trust. I'm trusting these guys. I'm trusting my premonition that one of these guys getting an opportunity, man, is going to step up. So that's my prediction. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think. If you disagree, let me know in the comment section. Can't wait to see the game play out to know that, like, whether or not I was close or whether or not I was like right on point with my analysis of or opinion and my guess about what the final score would be. Final word. Man, don't sweat the little shit, baby. You know what I'm saying? Man, this is football. This is week 7. You can be one of those fans who is chewing on their fingernails during the game or before the game starts. You could take my advice and relax and enjoy a very good rivalry game here in week 7. I love the Lord's number 7, right? And know that, man, like the slot machines, when them 7s come up, man, that's us. You know what I mean? So I expect 5 to, man, throw a bunch of strikes tomorrow. I expect Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt again, man, to run all up and down the chest of this Dallas defense like a zipper. And, yeah, man, I expect us to pull out a much-needed victory and to, secure the number 2 spot in the NFC East, further solidifying us a little bit more and get us a little bit closer to the Eagles and to taking over that number 1 spot here over the next couple weeks. So, now, again, man, that's my opinion. That's my take. That's my stance. I'm standing on it 10 motherfucking toes. If you disagree, let me know in the comments, man. That's been the basis of this episode. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Again, man, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I will catch you in the next episode. More than likely, I'll have no choice but to do a reaction to tomorrow's game episode on Monday. So if nothing else, I'll see you guys on Monday, man. Enjoy the game. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Until then, take care of yourselves. Blessings.